folks in, a couple more folks that are going to be trickling in soon. So guys, I want to welcome you all to Teamwork Makes the Dream Work here. And what we're going to be looking at is the often neglected link between your marketing and your sales team and the benefits of making sure that they're actually aligned properly in your business and aligned towards your ROI or aligned towards increasing your ROI. And this is just monetary ROI either. This is about ROI in time and energy for your company. So quick side note, we're going to have some time Q&A towards the end. Feel free to use the Q&A box here as we go. If something pops into your head, drop us a line, drop us a question. We'll make sure to get to that towards the end, and do stick around as we're going to have something special for everybody that does make it towards the end here. Just a little added bonus for you. All right. Brody, take us in?
Yeah, let's do it. First, really happy everyone's listening in today, or for those of you who will be looking at the recording in the future. This is, in my opinion, like the most important topic that's transformed Ladder's own growth. Everything that we talk about today has one purpose. It's to actionably and very quickly actually transform the amount of MRR and revenue your company can generate every single month by improving through pretty simple step-by-step tactics that we'll get into on the latter half of the webinar today that will supercharge the way your company currently treats growth. And I think that's, at a more philosophical level, a really important thing to take away today, which is that marketing and sales should have one purpose, and that purpose is growth. And let's define growth really cleanly. Growth is where your company generates more capital and more revenues on a month-to-month basis. Beyond that, yep.
All right. No, that sounds perfect. So my name is Mike. I'll be one of your co-hosts here for the day. I'm the new business strategist here at Ladder. I've spent nearly a decade in marketing in most conceivable roles, from graphic designer, manager, director, instructor, you name it, chances are good I've done that within the marketing department. I'm currently holding down the fort here in Austin, Texas, working with business owners to understand their challenges that they're facing, the goals they're seeking to achieve, and working with them to show them how Ladder can help them get how Ladder can get there through a more scientific approach to growth marketing. So our other host here, this is John Brody, our CEO. John, I'll let you take it away.
Yep. So Ladder's my third company. My previous two startups, I was also responsible for growing them. And I think the best context I can give you right now is that Ladder grew to over $250,000 MRR as an organization with a sales team that was never larger than 2. The only way we were able to do that was from how efficient our marketing and sales teams ran. And the webinar today is actually just basically tracing back how we gained that efficiency, how we were able to become that level when it came to our MRR and our growth, and the tactics that we chose to change the way we ran our company from a more traditional approach when it came to marketing and sales towards a more cutting edge approach. And it really starts with the fact that marketing and sales most often operate like they're in a tug of war. There's 3 things we're going to go through today that will take you from point A, which is the traditional way of running your growth, where you have marketing and sales teams operating in silos, to a whole brand new way of thinking about how you run your organization when it comes to growth. And the transformation happens when marketing and sales actually align around one magic metric. The first thing we're going to get into is exactly what that magic metric should be. There's a shockingly low amount of companies who actually run their growth using this metric. However, the ones that do instantly start seeing the rewards of greater efficiency and much greater output of marketing and sales when it comes to new MRR creation. The second thing we're going to get into is when it comes to lead scoring. Lead scoring is something that everybody knows is important. That said, even companies who do lead scoring, it often is done in such a way that it causes more problems than it actually solves. The reason for that is lead scoring, when done the traditional way, is a very manual, human error-prone process where you typically have salespeople retroactively and manually trying to score leads that marketing is generating. That then creates a lot of inefficiencies. It creates more distrust on the marketing side. You suddenly have to have marketing and sales people having meetings just to discuss, like, why was lead qualified? Why wasn't this lead qualified? All of that creates delays. That then makes it really difficult for marketing to optimize all of their outputs around spending all of their time generating truly qualified leads. Today, we're going to show you how you can build a fully automated, transparent, and measurable system when it comes to lead scoring that unites marketing and sales teams together. And the third part of the webinar today is kind of going back right into that. We're going to show you the actual tactics using Ladder as an example. And we're open to questions at the end about how these tactics can be implemented in your own environment. But we're going to actually walk you through step by step how Ladder went from running its organization and growth traditionally to in a more cutting edge fashion, where we aligned around that magic metric. We automated our lead scoring, and our growth took off almost overnight once we did that. Before we get into that, though, and we show you what that magic metric is, let's look at what a traditional leaky marketing and sales funnel looks like. This is probably how yours currently runs. One thing you'll notice right off the bat is everything is in silos. You have marketing focused on just generating leads. They're handing those leads off to sales too frequently in terms of how unqualified they end up being. You then have sales spending more of their time not actually selling. You look at most sales organizations, there's dedicated roles for people just to chase down qualified leads to book meetings with them. That's highly inefficient. More than that, you have your salespeople spending time talking to unqualified prospects, then spending time talking to marketing about why something was unqualified. All of that leads to that really gross inefficiency. And that is not optimizing actually towards growth. And when you define growth the way Ladder recommends you do, which is simply more MRR each month, you're basically reducing your potential when it comes to MRR generation and revenues the way you're currently running your organization through this siloed approach. The solution, however, is when you align around what we call a true north metric. That's that one magic metric that optimizes every single thing marketing and sales does towards it. It creates proper alignment, as we'll shortly get into. And this is a much different approach to one that relies more on guesswork, where marketing generates lots of leads. It then gets handed over to a sales-based silo, where sales is trying to close them, but they often spend more time talking to unqualified prospects. They spend more of their time trying to lead score. They spend more time talking to marketing about why things and why prospects weren't qualified and not. All that creates that inefficiency. It creates oftentimes that tug of war level of distrust. That brings every single person in your company who works on the marketing and sales side further away from actually giving you more growth. And the number one way that you start solving that is through that alignment. And that is that true north metric. And the magic way of solving it is by making it qualified meetings booked per month. Now, next up, we're going to show you the two ingredients that go into a winning B2B strategy, but this should sit at the very top, which is really everything that you should be focused on when it comes to marketing and sales is how many more qualified meetings do we book in calendar every single month. When you are successfully doing this, two things happen. Your sales team spends the majority of their time actually selling. Your marketing team spends the majority of their time actually getting proper feedback loops on what's a good lead and what's not a good lead, and focusing all in and doubling down on the winning channels and the winning tactics that are driving more of these qualified meetings being booked every single month. Very important to note, this magic metric means your sales team is not having to chase down leads. If you do this right, you could actually build an organization, especially as a startup or an SMB, that can get to pretty good scale, at least the level of Ladder, where you're around 250, 300K MRR, and not have to have dedicated reps just trying to chase down leads and hope they book in calendars. Very first ingredient here, of course, goes back to qualified leads. You still need qualified leads in order to optimize towards that magic metric. The way that we'll solve this, and we'll show you in a bit, is how you automate lead scoring through an on-site workflow that marketing actually can take a lot of responsibility for. That helps you suddenly start defining measurably how many qualified leads you're getting each and every month.
So John, the one thing I want to make a side note here that stands out, especially on this side, looking at minimally viable qualified leads, which is tough to say, but really important. Looking at things like scoring on revenue per month, number of team members, job title, et cetera. What this sounds like to me is an opportunity to begin validating your buyer personas. And most businesses have buyer personas built out for their particular company. If they don't, they ought to. But what I see happen most times with a buyer persona is it gets created at the beginning and then it gets stuck on the shelf and nobody bothers with it anymore. So what I'm seeing here, and I think this is a good little side note to have in here, is that this is an opportunity to validate those buyer personas, see if you need to reassess what who you're going after, who you're pursuing as clients, right? And then being able to use that to focus in and really start to move towards that true north metric that we're looking at. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's precisely it. What you want to have happen when you have that feedback loop between sales and marketing isn't, hey, this lead wasn't qualified, like stop, giving us these bad leads. It should actually be, hey, the lead scoring that we agreed to and set up and is currently running in autonomous fashion is wrong. We've actually now seen that what we thought was a qualified lead actually isn't. Let's change that one input in the lead scoring system and see what happens next. That again goes back to having less friction in how marketing and sales works together. It also allows you to treat your growth more like an actual science. And right here we see a sheet. This is Ladder's own actually. It shows you the cost per qualified lead. This should be one of the outputs that marketing can deliver to you almost immediately when you implement the tactics we're going to show you when it comes to having lead scoring happen in an automated way through your conversion workflow. This immediately allows marketing to double down all their focus on the channels actually driving value. That makes marketers really happy. That's also what makes salespeople really happy. And again, going back to that magic metric of qualified meetings being booked each month, doing this is one of the key ingredients to actually get the qualified leads into the system.
No, definitely. And looking at this, being able to take a broad view of your channels as well and get a better understanding of how they align with your overall sales and marketing goals, helps you, again, like you said, take a more scientific approach to this. It becomes less about what you believe is, or, preconceived notions, and more about the actual numbers themselves. Take LinkedIn and Quora here. LinkedIn and Quora is a good example. You can see the number of leads we got on both was relatively small, 3 and 3. 3 leads per channel here, but you can see the conversion rate substantially higher on Quora. LinkedIn is known for having really high cost per click, really high acquisition costs. But if you can start to move it one over to the left here to that next column here on the sheet, now we can start to see how that aligns to our goal and see the actual value of those leads, not just a conversion rate, not just a cost per click, not just a click-through rate. It becomes how valuable that particular channel is to your business. And you can really, like you said, begin to double down. So being able to optimize further down that funnel about what that lead is actually worth to your business and what it looks like in ROI gives you a better understanding of how you can start to double down on those channels or change tactics.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that, once you have it set up, allows you to complete the 2 ingredients that give you a winning B2B strategy that's aligned around that magic metric of qualified meetings booked each month. What we'll show you in our tactic by tactic playbook is how to optimize landing pages, how to run your remarketing while leveraging calendar and bed widgets to do exactly this. And the really great thing about it, again, is once this is set up and aligned, your marketing and sales teams will run much more autonomously and efficiently. That sheet that we just looked at, that Mike was talking about, that's something that marketing can now generate automatically. That is your lead scoring. No longer will you have to have marketing give you one report and wait for sales to lead score and then hope that sales and marketing can agree on what was qualified and what wasn't, and then create your final report, what was a qualified lead. All this can happen autonomously and self-sufficiently once you get that alignment. And in terms of impact, traditionally on a traditionally run sales and marketing team, your conversion rate from qualified lead to an actual meeting booked is about 10%. And think about that for a second. Like, this is how grossly inefficient that is, that even amongst the qualified leads that you happen to get into your funnel, you actually convert that small percentage to actually doing that demo, actually taking that sales call. Your future, if you implement the tactics laid out in today's webinar, should be an increase as high as 30% in terms of what we've seen at Ladder and what our clients get when they implement these types of tactics. That's enormous. This change right here represents your sales team actually spending the time selling and closing. It means that you could stay leaner as an organization without having to scale inefficiently and hire additional people to do roles that you can actually automate through a proper system. So the impact couldn't be larger. And again, single-handedly, this is the exact same recipe for how Ladder scaled to over $250,000 of MRR with a sales team that oftentimes is only one person and has never gone above 2. First step goes into that automated lead qualification workflow. We're going to show you exactly how Ladder does this on our own site. The very first step, of course, is you're going to capture some information, whether it's a single input email capture, like you see here, or it's a five input, submission request. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, you're going to have this one first step, but the key is what that step falls into. Most often, companies, when they even get somebody to submit them a request, they basically get a page that says, hey, thanks for saying hi and requesting information. Somebody from our sales team will be in touch. What you want to start doing first is actually doing that qualification right now when your prospects are most warm, right? And showing the highest propensity to actually care about your company. Ladder right here, you'll see 4 different questions we ask. This represents our entire qualification flow. Depending upon what somebody answers, that equals, is it qualified, is it not? You could use as many as 4 questions in our experience. You could even use as few as 1. To be totally candid, at Ladder right now, we've actually seen that the only question that really matters is the what's your monthly marketing budget? So it's actually possible to do this as simply as having 1 question being asked and then scored. One note on that actually as well is that right there took our entire development team about 5 hours to complete. You can use a tool called Typeform. That's basically a SaaS solution that will allow you to do the exact same thing. And if you do that, you're looking at maybe less than 1 hour of implementation time that even a non-technical user could do. Second tactic, though, goes back to that calendar embed widget. How do you actually rally around that magic metric of calendar slots being booked by your prospects? Leverage calendar embed widgets. There's software out there. We use HubSpot, but there's free software called Calendly that you can use that will allow your prospects to book in calendars automatically. They see this right after they fill out their information. Don't allow them to forget about you. Right now is the time when your prospects are most likely to actually want to book a meeting with you. Give them the chance, make it seamless and reduce friction. When Ladder put this change up, it increased our intro call conversion rate by over 47% in just 2 months. And then next up, we have automated email drips. You'll notice the way that we run our email drips, we leverage the same winning tactics around that calendar embed widget that, again, is consistent with the strategy of a magic metric of calendar meetings being booked each and every month. The recipe that Ladder uses is essentially, okay, right now we've had prospects give us information. We then gave them the chance to book automatically through that calendar embed widget on site. What happens to those who don't? Still, there's a lot more you can do to automate the process of calendar meetings being booked without burdening your sales team. The way you do that is through an automated email drip. The key, though, is what's the call to action in the emails that you send. Traditionally, sales teams send emails where they say, hey, thanks for saying hi to us. When is a good time to chat? That's extremely inefficient. Your prospects are very busy. It's a really high friction process just to actually schedule appointments. There's software out there raising tons of money, just trying to automate the role and the admin function of having to schedule meetings in the first place through email. A better way of doing it is in your emails, in the first email, make the call to action short and to the point. Saw you just requested more information about us or to book a meeting. Here's a link. Click. What we do in the second, third, and fourth emails is actually flip it a little bit. So if by the second email somebody hasn't booked yet, the right strategy is actually to lead with content. It could be content that you've written yourself. It could be content that is on a third-party site. Just make it relevant. However, make the upsell and the secondary call to action that calendar embed widget. Right now, you've again given prospects who requested information a great opportunity to book a meeting in your calendar without your sales team having to lift a finger.
And I think it's important here before we go to that next slide. I think it's important to look at this, to look at the automated drip sequence and note that it's not all about repetition. If we're looking at a 4-series drip that says, trying to get people to book that next appointment, to take that next logical step in this relationship we're building here, we don't need to hammer that point home. The goal isn't to just throw this call to action at them 4 times and hope it sticks. All right. The goal here is to look at value you can provide and the timing of that offer as well. Like you said, when we're looking to capture them as quickly as we can when they're most warm and they're most ready, they got the highest propensity to take that next action. the further away you get, the more value we're going to have to provide upfront in those emails, whether that's your own or third-party content. But take a look at the timing as well. So it's important. Like I said, I don't want you to think this is just about repetition, but a lot about the psychology behind the value you provide and the timing of those emails themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That also goes back into sales tactic 5 around retargeting. One trend you should notice right now is these are traditionally known as marketing tactics. However, they're being applied to your sales organization. You can do that, and you could be very opportunistic because you've aligned your marketing and sales around that true north metric of meetings booked per month. If you didn't do that, it'd be really weird to be asking your marketing team to spend time running retargeting campaigns for leads who already submitted requests. Again, though, this goes back to giving your qualified prospects every opportunity automatically. Anybody in sales hadn't lifted a finger, the chance to book a meeting in calendar. Right here, you'll see content-based offers. This follows the same strategy that we use in those email drips. For leads who just booked, you can run retargeting campaigns where the call to action is just, hey, book a meeting. And again, it goes right back to that calendar embed widget. For other people, though, run content first. But again, same exact strategy. This is really holistic. When you push people back to your blog or some piece of content, have that calendar embed widget pop back up on a sumo pop-up. Always have that calendar embed widget chasing them around to give them the chance to book automatically. That's what allows you to optimize exclusively around calendar meetings booked every single month. That allows your marketing and sales to work as hard as possible for one another around that true north goal. That makes marketers really happy. It makes salespeople really happy. And again, what really drives value for your company is qualified leads booking meetings with sales. That is the only way your sales team spends time doing what you want them to do. The more time sales spends actually talking to qualified prospects, the more money and ROI your company will make. This magic metric is aligned exclusively around just that. All these tactics allow, in a pretty holistic way, for marketing and sales to work together in achieving that. Recapping things, we've had that calendar embed widget now, be leveraged through retargeting campaigns, through the email automation drips, and even in the on-site workflow. And the final ingredient there being, the workflow itself, doing the lead scoring automatically. Taking a step back, every single time your marketing team is spending time on a source, right, or a tactic, not actually driving a qualified lead, every single time marketing is having to have a meeting with sales to discuss the latest report you have to build, that difference is your current marketing team being able to implement these types of tactics that directly increase ROI by optimizing towards the number of meetings that you book every single month from qualified leads.
Well put. And also worth noting, especially here in the retargeting campaigns, looking at content-based offers like we've got right here, how we achieve marketing success, test success rates 300% higher than the market, and beginner's guide to funnel analysis. This is an opportunity for you to continue validating those buyer personas we talked about earlier by seeking to understand what's most important to them. These are chances to test content offers, to test value propositions, copy. What pain points are your particular client seeking to solve? What offers work best with them? I mean, even something like this is how initiated are they? What step of the process are they in? Are they really looking to dig down deeper into testing? They're doing a lot of marketing tests going, or are they in the beginner steps? Are they not ready for all the heavy-handed language? This is an opportunity to test a lot of these different things and validate those personas.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Mike. And we'll get into a little bonus tactic here, but even the bonus tactic goes back to that point of when you align marketing and sales around growth, when growth equals more monthly revenues, and when you make it measurable through that magic metric of qualified meetings being booked each month, you create really virtuous cycles. Suddenly, marketing is spending time actually doing jobs that your sales team might have to do normally. That means your sales team is spending time actually, closing deals. When your sales team is closing deals, that means that marketing has more budget and more focus and direction and remit to actually double down and focus on the very sources that they know drove to those qualified leads, closing in the first place. That's the antithesis of what we saw in that, very early slide, that tug of war. Suddenly you have everybody working together towards actual value creation for your company. And one little bonus tactic here, and this goes back to the fact that when you start working with this type of a B2B strategy and having marketing and sales get aligned, you should start finding lots of interesting opportunities to how to optimize more and more towards that. For instance, if you have a blog, it's really low-hanging fruit to simply take that winning formula of those ingredients and start embedding the very same workflow in other places on your site. When you have that calendar and bed widget, working really well, you could suddenly make it so when people who visit your site 5 times or more, maybe they automatically see that widget, pop up right away. These are additional tactics we didn't cover, but they all fall into that holistic strategy of alignment on that magic metric, leveraging, really a small set of tools. All of them actually could be free, require very little engineering time, but transform the way your company is run. And I know Mike mentioned this at the start of the webinar, but all the tactics that we went over today, these are tactics that Ladder has used embedded on ourselves as well as our clients. And there's a lot more out there. We covered some of the big ones that we think can instantly, in terms of how easy they are to implement, transform the way your company is run and immediately make an impact when it comes to your bottom line. That said, we have over 50 sales-related tactics, very similar to the strategies we spoke about today, in our own private database. One thing everybody's going to get who joined today is free unlimited access to Ladder's own playbook, where you can explore and look at all the tactics that actually exist and are out there. And feel free any time to ping us if you want any help on helping troubleshoot how these tactics get implemented in your own personal environment.
All right, so let's take a couple of questions here. Got a handful that came in. Guys, if you do have any other questions, anything you want to go back over, slides you want to re-see, feel free, hit the Q&A box. Should be down there, I believe, on your left-hand side. Let's kick a few of these off. Let's see. So it seems like there's a lot. Where do I start? And paralysis by analysis can be really difficult to overcome. And even looking at that last slide, we've got tons of different tactics, lots of different opportunity. So the question is, what do you recommend for starting points and how to establish scope so that you and your team don't end up down a rabbit hole? I think that's a good one to start with.
Yeah, I think the best way of doing it goes back to that fundamental priority of get alignment in the first place. Hold a meeting and get people on the same page on marketing and sales around what your new KPI is going to be, that qualified meetings per month. Once you get people bought in, it actually simplifies the game because it goes back to those 2 key ingredients. 1, how do you qualify leads automatically in the first place? 2, how do you get more meetings booked automatically? A simple way of making that even more actionable would be, even before you implement the workflow online in terms of that automated lead scoring, just have marketing and sales map out the questions in the first place. That's a really good first step once you get alignment on the magic KPI to start with. On the calendar and bedside, I think one of the best ways you can go about it is just finalize the tool you're going to use. Whether it's Calendly, HubSpot, or some other solution, just finalize what you're going to use. That removes a lot of excessive kind of paralysis in terms of having to figure out what software it's going to be. It makes everything more real, and you're that much closer then to actually implementing quite a lot of what we spoke about today.
Excellent. All right, we got another one here. What tools, and this kind of dovetails to your last statement there, what tools are you using to automate email workflows?
Yeah, so actually at Ladder, even at our size, we still use MailChimp. It's a free tool. It's really efficient and scales cheaply. We use MailChimp because it integrates via webhooks with most services that are out there. So for instance, if you're using Calendly or HubSpot for your calendar and bed widget, there's ways of integrating that directly with MailChimp so they're speaking together. It just saves you a lot of time on the development side, and again, makes things more frictionless when it comes to setting up a system like this. So MailChimp's what we use, and yeah, that's actually it. It's really simple, but again, what we found at Ladder, finding the winning strategy and formula is the hard part. Actually finding the 5 tactics that will really drive growth is the difficult thing to do. The actual implementation, or even the actual number of things you have to do, oftentimes is a lot less than you'd think.
That's actually a good segue into our next question. And actually, this comes from that last slide of ours, the tactics slide. A tactic sounds like it can be just about anything. What do you do to ensure that you're not just moving around the deck chairs?
Yeah, again, it actually goes right back to alignment. There's lots of tactics that you could do. Even the Ladder playbook has about 50 plus. Alignment, though, helps give you proper prioritization. The simple way of doing it is make whoever is recommending a new tactic answer the following question. How will this increase measurably the number of qualified meetings that get booked each month? If somebody can, in 10 seconds or less, answer that question, you're moving deck chairs around. If they can answer it, it's probably worthwhile a tactic to try out.
I like it. That sounds like the pizza rule for meetings. If you can't have a meeting that can be controlled by one or two pizzas, you got too many people in the meeting. So it's good to be able to have those little nuggets there. All right, question number, let's see. How often, there we go, perfect, right into the meetings. How often should sales and marketing be getting together to refine the process and make sure that that everything is working the way that it should?
Yeah, really just a simple weekly meeting is more than sufficient. Again, because those reports that are being generated now are going to happen a lot more self-sufficiently from marketing, because you're not going to have to spend time, and there's going to be this big lag on marketing giving one report, then sales doing a report, and then retroactively having to reconcile them together. That allows you to operate a lot more agile, and a lot more efficient. So with that said, we usually recommend a weekly meeting simply to review, again, the number of qualified meetings that got booked each week. That's a great way of just staying in touch, and also a way of marketing and sales brainstorming to hopefully go back to finding new interesting tactics that can answer the litmus question of how does this improve qualified meetings being booked in a really aggressive way. So again, it goes back to you're saving tons of time doing inefficient things that can be automated. It's made more transparent. That allows your people to spend more time being aggressive on doubling down on winning formulas.
Sounds good. So that's the end of our question. Do we have any other questions out there? Think about the tactics we looked at today, sales alignment, actual implementation of these tactics as well, or anything about the ladder planner that you guys are going to have access to. We'd be happy to answer some of those questions as well. If there's no other ones, I think we're going to close this out for the day. How is everybody going to be getting their access to the ladder planner?
Yeah, good question. That will be emailed to everyone. So whatever email you registered with, within the next 24 hours, you'll get access to that ladder playbook. Again, it'll be self-serve, unlimited access for you and your team. Feel free to dive right in. These are the same tactics. It's the same playbook that Ladder uses for ourselves, and actually the same playbook and tactics that we use for all of our clients.
All right. Well, I think that's about our time today. We're going to close this out. Guys, we appreciate you sticking with us. Hope you got some good information out of it. Be looking for, here we go. We got one last question. How are you considering synergy in between tactics to filter relevant tactics?
One more time, Mike. Repeat that one.
How are you considering synergy in between tactics to filter out or to filter relevant tactics, I suppose, from irrelevant ones?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I guess, you could have 100 things you could choose from, right? So I think what the question really is asking is how do you prioritize? Well, the only way you can prioritize is first by filtering out what's an unqualified tactic. I think that step you again solve by simply forcing yourself to answer the question how after a month of implementation will this get us more qualified meetings being booked. The second half of the question was about prioritization, which is a very interesting one. And honestly, amongst qualified tactics, it is more guesswork, which basically just means it's based upon your own personal experience. In terms of what you've seen work really well, your own intuition. One reason why Ladder does really well is we have a ton of knowledge that's been built up in our company. So when we can't do something that has a pre-existing playbook written for it, when we don't have data that's saying do this, do that, we basically guess really well. We have really good informed opinions that allow us to basically make choices in the absence of complete information with a really high degree of accuracy. I'd say one final way of answering that question, though, is actually by time it takes you to implement. If there's two qualified tactics, but one's going to take you 10 hours of engineering time and 5 hours of design, one's going to take you 1 hour design and 2 hours of engineering time. Unless your team is massive, the tactic that takes less time, you probably want to prioritize faster.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So if there's no more questions, I think next step. So everybody, do keep an eye out for that link in the email itself. Get yourself set up on the planner. If you have any questions, feel free, drop us a line. Let us know what you're working on, what we can do to help get you set up and get you pointed in the right direction.
Sounds good. Yep. And like Mike said, any follow-up questions on how what you learned today and the tactics we outlined can be implemented in your particular business environment, feel free to email us and we're happy to answer those.
All right. So we're going to close this out. We will see you all next time. Do keep an eye out for our next upcoming webinar. We'll have some good stuff for you. Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.